Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be here. I want to read a few new poems and a couple of poems from this book, A Cafe in Boca. I want to begin with a sonnet, actually. But don't get too worried. It's nothing like Shakespeare would have written. Actually, if Shakespeare had a video camera, it might sound something like this. This is called Epithalamium Director's Cut. In spite of everything, I kissed her. I wasn't quite sure why I wanted to sing, or what made me buy that ring in the first place, or the rapture that first time we were captured on camera, experimenting. She blushed at dusk, sounded like the title of a bad porn flick. But still, as she dropped her stunning damask gown, she seemed appallingly sad, adjusting hips in a hot, fine swivel. My wife, who couldn't be here tonight, was the reason for this next poem. She was born in Detroit, lived the first half of her life there, later moved to Atlanta, and then Tallahassee, Florida, and that was all before she married me and moved to Los Banos, California, where she immediately, instantly went insane because there's nothing to do in Las Banos. So she had to find something, and she did. She found that gardening was, in particular vegetables, was something that took her mind off reality. This is called Notorious and Crazy for Susan. It began with the tomatoes. She had never placed a finger into dirt until then. Why tomatoes, I asked. Why not a row or two of asparagus to mock my manhood on days we are at odds? She smiled, letting me know she appreciated the joke. Then, glancing at the ground while holding the fruit in her hand, she rolled it around for a minute with those long, slim fingers known to have made men moan. She kissed the tomato, calling it her baby, calling it a perfect red sun centered in the San Joaquin galaxy. She said things like that sometimes. Notorious and crazy, sweating in summer, frightening to all, save the tomatoes and me. I don't usually write topical poems. I figure CNN can do it better than me, and this is one case where several months ago when the Gulf oil thing happened, I sat down and I wrote this from a sort of fictional point of view. It involves, the main character, if you want to call it that, in this poem is a heron. And everybody here, I'm sure, has seen those photographs. They're impossible to forget once you've seen them. This is called Some Thoughts for Big Oil. When the heron chose to die, no one thought about talking him out of it. He had done his part to enhance the beauty of things. In every photograph, there he was, looking up at the ethereal sky. It was a pose, of course, but he had mastered it. a wink at the heavens, as though he knew in his great wisdom the truth. There were no heavens. There was no God placing shrimp inside that elegant beak. The heron had stopped thinking these foolish things in the early 21st century while partying with fellow birds off the coasts of the world. Not too many years later, he made up his small mind to walk out into the oils that rested on the bay. Then, with as much dignity as herons are allowed, he glanced at the discolored wings, pulled a greasy feather from himself, and swallowed the thing whole. It tickled on the way down, as death must secretly tickle. And then it was over. Sooner or later, everyone eats it. It's always difficult, always beautiful enough that the rest of us call out for more. I've noticed tonight several poems about fathers. And my father died in 1985, and since then I've written periodically poems having to do with him, addressing his death, and this is the most recent of those. It involves maybe a memory, maybe a fantasy on my part, I'm not sure, of my father holding me when I was like 3 years old and imagining what he must have been thinking. I know for a fact that he never accomplished what he wanted to, and I know also that probably fairly early on he knew that my life was going to take a slightly different turn than his. This is called Unlocking the Grave. I always hated spring because it ushered in the green floor that everyone knew was bullshit. You're dead. Everyone's dead. It's just that some of us are more sincere about it than others. In 1952, you rocked me to sleep while looking at a copy of Life magazine and sipping hot Lipton tea. On the cover, Hemingway. On your face, the desperation to be something extravagant. You touched my small forehead with a thumb that seemed iron, hoping to pass on the one dream left in your captivity. Your thumb spelled out Havana, and on page 26 of that magazine, Ernest Hemingway lifted a glass of absinthe in your honor. We both knew at that moment he would be my real father, while you sweated the days and smiled at people you despised. The thin carbon pay stubs kept coming in like clockwork every 2 weeks for your family, until you died telling us you loved us and to say a prayer. I still believe in one of those final things. So, here is my love, old man. Here, with the caution of a gazelle just before it takes its last breath of African air, looking down the barrel of Hemingway's gun. That great sport Death walks into the hotel bar in the heart of Havana and brings Hemingway with him. All the drunks look up for one brief moment, mumbling the obvious. It is only Death and Senor Hemingway. And now both of them are finished. Thank you very much.